Welcome back to The Breakdown with me, NLW. It's a daily podcast on macro, Bitcoin, and the big picture power shifts remaking our world. What's going on, guys? It is Friday, September 19th, and that means it's time for the Friday Five. Before we get into that, however, if you are enjoying The Breakdown, please go subscribe to it, give it a rating, give it a review, or if you want to dive deeper into the conversation, come join us on the Breakers Discord. You can find a link in the show notes or go to bit.ly/breakdownpod. All right, friends, back with another Friday Five, and this week we have everything from a new agent protocol that works with stablecoins and crypto to the much ballyhooed Fed rate cut, although much good it may have done us. Lots and lots to dive into, so without any further ado, let's do this thing.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday Five to all of you. I got a frog in my throat the minute I started doing that intro. It was great. Sounded terrific. Felt good. Felt like a good intro. I was telling them in the comments, NLW, it's sad, but this is going to be our last show because you and I have been hired by Disney to replace Jimmy Kimmel.
For a very short period of time until I mouth off and say something that gets me fired. So
we'll be back in 3 weeks.
We'll be gone for one. Yeah.
We'll be back in 3 weeks with a much smaller, more offended audience. But listen, we got this title here that Bitcoin has never been this bullish in September. For those who haven't seen this, we've got this chart right here, 8.13% last year, 7.29%. Reminds me of the meme, not gonna lie, I thought they had us in the first half. Doesn't this feel like we're kind of celebrating a little early, though? Last I checked, it's September 19th.
It's up a little bit because it went down a bunch. Look, September is a historically bad month for Bitcoin. It always is. We always get all excited about coming back from the summer and are like, all right, ready to go. And then it's dog poo. And it's dog poo for all the markets. And so basically it's just not awful right now is sort of the TLDR. I don't think there's anyone out there who's feeling super jazzed about anything. It's just kind of holding its own. Now, that said, it is chaos out there. No one has any freaking idea what to make of markets. Like, we got the cut that people have been wanting for a full year from Powell, and it was so anticlimactic, and it didn't really tell us anything about what happens next. And people don't want to believe the good. It is just a rough, confused time. So the fact that Bitcoin is, in the context of all of that, up 8% is super bullish, but it's not bullish in like, all right, let's put on our cowboy boots and get ready to rip kind of a way.
Yeah, it's like, it just feels like my favorite football play of all time is when Leon Lett on the Cowboys recovered a fumble and ran it all the way down to the goal line and started celebrating before he got there, and little guy Don Beebe slapped it out of his hand. I see tweets like that and I'm like, oh, we're definitely going to be down by the end of September.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's the other thing, though, is that we're living through trying to understand to what extent the 4-year cycle remains intact in an era where we are now totally woven in with the broader financial system. And, inevitably, it's going to be some parts of Bitcoin and crypto cyclicality are likely persistent and other parts aren't. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if the rotation between Bitcoin and altcoins in a sort of broad way has some amount of persistence, right? New waves of people come in, they come in through sort of the big ones, they find their way to other parts of the field. That would not surprise me, even in sort of financialized Bitcoin world, for it to be persistent. But whether there's actual seasonality in the same way, or are we just subject to the seasonal forces that are broader now? Like all of these things we're kind of just living through, and it's we're not going to know until we know.
There are definitely broader forces at play for the market and the cycle right now. The first thing I had queued up was the Fed, but I'm going to move that back because this really plays into what you're saying. SEC approved generic listing standards for faster crypto ETF approvals. We can certainly unpack exactly what that means. We've done it here before. The TLDR is if you've been on Coinbase futures for 6 months, you can probably get an ETF. Here's the assets that qualifies for. And then, of course, SEC breakthrough lets Grayscale launch first multi-token ETF, which arguably is just as big of news, but getting a little less hype. But we basically have our first crypto index fund that's trading publicly here. So if we want to talk about what could impact the cycle, what could change, which coins go where at what point, these kind of things should be massive tailwinds that are not priced in from previous cycles.
Yeah, and my sense of these types of things is They are massive tailwinds, but on a much longer time horizon than we think, right? This is sort of what we've seen with Ethereum too. The Ethereum ETFs launched, and it turns out that the supply of an Ethereum ETF did not create demand for an Ethereum ETF, at least not initially. However, as we've seen subsequent to that, the fact that that instrument existed, and you could start to see the treasury theme come into that, and then other people could watch the treasury theme and buy into Ethereum more easily. Like, it did have tailwinds for it. It just wasn't an insta pop. And I think that you're going to see something similar here where we're almost inevitably doomed to be disappointed as a new set of these things flood in, kind of compete for liquidity, don't really have anything new or exciting to people. But ultimately, they just get normalized. They flow into all the different nooks and crannies of apps where people buy stocks. Like all of these things, they are tailwinds. They're just not sort of head popping in the way that, 5 years ago, a news story would come out and a coin would go up 100%.
Are you daring to imply that there's not going to be tremendous immediate demand for a Polkadot, SHIB, or Stellar ETF?
Well, Polkadot has some seriously big backers who have been persistent for that thing for way longer than it seems even a little reasonable. So I would not be willing to bet on that one. But outside of that, I think that it is unlikely that we see some massive run on asset number 27 in the immediate term.
Yeah, I think this is plumbing to your point. I think that
Yep.
the ones that have the entire flywheel of the narrative, like probably Solana right now, that has the massive treasury companies, that is going to get the ETF, that has an institutional narrative, should absolutely pop on these. The rest of them, it'll be nice that they're there. We did get an XRP sort of ETF yesterday and a Doge sort of ETF because they basically skipped the line and found a novel way to launch. But actually, both of them had tremendous volume. I believe I saw that the XRP ETP or whatever calling it launch yesterday was the largest volume on an ETF launch in 2025. Of course, the other crypto ones were in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, look, the other reality is that we could be wrong. Degeneracy could just come to the stock market in a big way. That might be our final triumph. So who knows?
To be clear, people are saying don't sleep on DOT and all these things. I'm not saying they're crappy assets. I'm not saying anything about them. I'm just saying that it's pretty far down the line of things that people are looking at with huge volumes right now.
The
Got a
big
lot of
difference
coins in mind.
The big difference, for example, is that when Kathy Wood does something excitedly with Dot in the future, she's one of those big backers that I was mentioning. There is now a place that the people who think that that's a signal can go that isn't a crypto
Coinbase or
exchange, and
whatever.
that's important.
Speaking of Coinbase, this is one I need you to unpack for me as my AIs are. Google Agentic Payments Protocol plus X402 agents can now actually pay each other. This is actually really cool. It's between Google and Coinbase, and my AI can pay your AI without us having to even communicate, right?
Yep. So a couple things. Right now, the place that we're in when it comes to AI agents is there's a huge amount of the plumbing, to use the term you just used, being built in infrastructure for agents. So over the last year, we've seen a number of new standards come up. There's one called MCP, Model Context Protocol, which is basically a sort of an agent-specific API where you can wrap any set of data in an MCP server, and then any agent can access it, right? So it makes the creation of agents much more quick and fast and easy. There was also a new protocol called A2A, which is from Google. It's an agent-to-agent communication protocol to make it easy for agents to interact with one another, to speak with one another. And these have been widely adopted. This is self-consciously modeled to work with MCP and A2A and is meant to solve some of the very core problems of agent commerce. So this is not a highly super generalist agents platform for everything. This is not imagining, agents working together to sort of make trades on financial markets or anything like that. This is specifically meant to solve some of the core problems of internet commerce for agents. So it wants to solve things like authenticity, intent, and have a way to kind of backstop things so merchants aren't just stuck holding the bag. So it allows for a person who's programming an agent to say in a common standardized way, yes, it has permission to do X. Yes, it has permission to spend X. That's sort of the level that it's functioning on. But it's extremely notable. I think there were some folks in the crypto space who are sad that this wasn't instantly sort of like fully cryptoized right from the beginning. But it is hugely telling that this is, again, the mainstream first agent payment protocol that Google is releasing. And they chose to do it with Coinbase. They have like 60 other
Always,
launch partners, but
always
this one was
Coinbase.
actually collaboration with Coinbase. So they are very clearly thinking about the integration of the crypto system into this. Stablecoins obviously being the first part of that. So, again, not necessarily great news for the random AI coin that wanted to be the payment standard for agents, but surprise, that was never going to work. And this is a much sort of like more considered approach to how agents and crypto can actually intersect.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't know what that coin is that you're talking about, but I definitely own it.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
I'm sure it's been airdropped to you.
yeah, sounds really good for USDC though, to be quite honest, because Coinbase obviously has a vested interest in the success of USDC, and the most rational approach for agent to agent payments is going to be a dollar denominated stablecoin.
Yeah, I mean, look, this protocol will be able to use everything. I mean, so like MasterCard, American Express, they're all in this alliance as well. So a lot of this is going to be, honestly, this is the most boring version of agents payments that you are ever going to see. This is, does my agent that's sitting inside Chrome? Chrome just announced that Gemini is now native inside Chrome this week. This is solving for, does my agent have the right to buy the random Halloween PJs for my kids that were just advertised to me? It's like, it's stuff like that. It is not super kind of advanced commerce. It's just run of the mill e-commerce stuff.
What could possibly go wrong when this does become more advanced? I can't see any potential traps or pitfalls for this. I mean, just having, AI agents out there spending your money, it's going to be perfect. It's going to go great.
We've done crazier things.
We have. Well, speaking of tokens, we have some big news in a couple of corners of the internet. Base is beginning to explore a new network token. Of course, this is Coinbase's L2. I'm old enough to remember when Base was started under the Biden, Gary Gensler era, when they said we would never do a token. A layer two doesn't need a token. Well, apparently now, when there's money to be made and we're under a different regulatory environment, definitely need a token. And of course, we have MetaMask saying that they have a token coming as well. In all seriousness, couldn't pick two probably larger platforms or protocols, however we want to call it, to choose to launch tokens.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be demand for them. They're real projects. They're going to be exciting. Like, by the way, the Coinbase is very much couching their language in, we're totally still just exploiting. No, they're not. They are 100%.
Token is
unless the regulators show up with pitchforks outside of their headquarters in San Francisco. Actually, honestly, not even that. Outside of Brian Armstrong's house on a cliff in LA, this thing is getting launched is my prediction. But it's a test balloon to see, how their partners will interact. As we just saw with Google, Coinbase is now, they got to consider what a lot of people think, not just all of us, crazies over here in the crypto world. So I think that they are kind of floating it to see, are other people, going to be pissed? Are they going to deal with a bunch of anger from various coalitions that they're part of? But I would anticipate this is fully 100% full steam ahead.
I didn't really dig deeper. Do either of these, the MetaMask token or the Base token, offer a differentiated utility from other similar platforms before? Like, will Base's token be different than other layer two tokens? Not saying it has to, right? Gas can be a usable utility. Will the MetaMask token replace your Ethereum gas fees? I have no idea. I didn't dig into it, but what's the utility? What's the value proposition on these?
So I don't think that it's necessarily super clear yet. The thing that they are representing, certainly in Base's case, is that they're not trying to move away from Ethereum compatibility. So it's not even clear that they would replace Ethereum as the gas token. So I don't know. It's not exactly clear what it is. Look, tokens are a money making thing, and they create a lot of opportunity to make money, and then you can spend money to make more cool stuff. And that's sort of the idea.
So the value proposition is trust me, bro, and speculation. Love it.
Yeah.
My favorite. That's my favorite. This is crypto after all. Tether reveals USAT stablecoin, appoints Bo Hines, former White House advisor, to lead U.S. business. And thank you to everyone who joined us for the launch event of USAT in New York City. Has there ever been a more astronomical ascent of a human being than Bo Hines this year?
Paulo Arduino before him, I guess. I know he put his time in the trenches, I guess. No, it makes sense now why he left the administration, certainly.
Yeah, 12 minutes in Washington.
He was there for at least a few Scaramucci's, right?
Yeah, he probably knocked out like 10 Scaramucci's or something. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I think it is a huge sign that things are working and that things are improving, that Tether can do this and actually launch it. I think it's hugely good for US customers, for businesses to have both Tether and Circle competing around stablecoins. I think it leads to nothing but good stuff if you are a consumer of these technologies. So I'm glad they're here.
As am I. And, I think there was a great article on how I can't remember where it was that basically just projected that the future of stable coins was going to be you just go to an exchange and you exchange dollars for whatever you have, and the plumbing in the back decides which stable coin you're using. But there's going to be a day when you, as the consumer, are not even thinking about, hey, do I need USAT or USDT or USDC? It's just going to be in the background and you're going to effectively use it as a dollar.
I already believe that for the vast majority of stablecoin usage around the world, that more accurately represents consumer opinion. When a consumer, especially outside of the US, when a consumer is using a stablecoin, they're not using a Tether, they're using a US dollar. That's what it means to them.
Yeah, totally agree. So I do think that will be the future here. Speaking of the United States, we've got the UK to strengthen ties with US on crypto matters. I actually saw that a Bitcoin staking ETP, I believe, launched today in the UK, which obviously we have not gotten here. Staking or in kind, something. I don't want to misquote it, but it does seem like the UK, in all of their glory or whatever problems you might think they have, are looking to become more crypto friendly. They see the trend that's happening around the world, and they have not been that crypto friendly in the past.
I don't know, man. It's every other week the UK has a new prime minister and they're like switched from being crypto friendly to not crypto friendly. It's very unclear to me what's going on there. Now, the reason to be sort of like interested in this and not just super cynical out of the gate, or even to care if you're in the US and who cares what the UK is going to do, is there are a bunch of interesting experiments around cross-border real-world asset tokenization, like sandboxing stuff that the UK and the US seem like they're going to go do, which could be very valuable in terms of sort of bringing real-world assets to a larger context. So I was interested to see stuff about that. Mostly, it seems like this White House is just trying to shore up the kind of like the innovation corridor between these two countries. They seem like they want to make that a key aspect of whatever sort of go forward trade relationship we have, because they had a boatload of AI related commitments that they announced at the same time, like tens of billions of dollars of US companies investing in the UK and things like that. So there's clearly crypto is a very big part of it. And in fact, I think that it was a bigger part of it than it even thought it was going to be. Basically, a lot of the headline making stuff was supposed to be AI, but then a lot of the discourse, it sounded like in practice behind the scenes, was about crypto. So, I think it's a very sincere, conscientious effort. I do not think it's just sort of window dressing. How much it actually impacts anything, TBD.
Just so you know, from Benjamin in the UK, they have a general election every 5 years, and they had one last year, and Keir Starmer has been PM for over a year. So you're being hyperbolic about your comments on the UK.
I can't.
We are American. We don't care. We already had the Tea Party. It's over. We won. Sorry. All right. And speaking of things that happen only in America, here are 5 key takeaways from the Fed's big interest rate decision. I push this to the back. I don't know how much we want to talk about it, but damn if Jerome Powell didn't just look defeated.
How could there possibly be 5 key takeaways? What are the 5 key takeaways? I don't think I had any key takeaways.
The dot plot, so nobody knows what's coming soon. Markets weren't sure what to make of it. Is that really okay? At least some of the confusion may have come from Powell characterizing the rate move as a risk management cut. That was a real zinger in there. The meetings began, but I don't even know how that's a takeaway. There's those aren't takeaways. That's word salad to try to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, that's it. Look, we all got to write articles. We're here slinging content as well. We know the game. Look, it's, we got the cut that people wanted. I think that when it comes to what comes next, we have basically an equal split between people thinking it's 0 cuts and people thinking it's 2 cuts for the rest of the year. Just a couple people think it's going to be 1. And then there's an outlier who's definitely not, the new Trump ally, Stephen Moran, in there, who thinks that we're going to have 5 for the rest of the year. And so no one knows really what to make of that. It seems like the bond market isn't loving it, is kind of rejecting it. Whatever. It's just,
I saw mortgage rates went up.
Yeah, it feels like more of the same. It did not solve whatever anxiety people were hoping it was going to solve, and we're just still very much in the same spot of not really being clear on what the state of the economy is. to be fair to everyone whose job it is to focus on that, it is a super confusing time. We've got this booming AI economy, but people are worried that it's a bubble. We've got real weakness in other areas. We've got inflation that seems like it's inevitable, but hasn't shown up. We've got some indicate, it's a very strange time. Plus, you layer on top of that the like intense politics around it, and no one knows what to kind of do with it, right? So I don't know that there could have been really anything. The only fireworks would have been if Powell if for some reason they didn't vote to cut, but it was 11-1 with the only holdout being the person who wanted the double cut. So there you go.
As I said before, 150 bips or shut up. Don't hit me with this 25 bips crap. We're either doing this or we're not, and clearly we're not really doing it. I can't believe that, by the way, we left out like Nakamoto's price action as one of our stories.
Oh, yeah.
And forward raising 1.65 cash and then just YOLOing into $1.5 billion worth of Solana on a weekend, and then hitting us with a 4 billion ATM. But guess what? We can just talk about treasury companies next week, because I know we'll have stuff.
Yeah, we just gave ourselves a little break. We're saving the treasury story for next week.
It's coming soon, I'm sure. Also, I mean, BNB at $1,000. That's crazy to me. But hey, those are the other ones. Those are what I would have given as honorable mentions. Otherwise, guys, check out the breakdown. NLW breaks all of these topics down in much more depth every single day. Newsletter, all of the things, where I get all of my information that I can steal to sound smart on my shows. Highly recommend you do the same thing so you can sound smart with your friends and coworkers. Otherwise, man, thank you very much. See you next week.
Later, guys.